In this session, we will review the way countries may consider the composition of their national delegation participating in Codex proceedings. Determining who should be on the national delegation is always a challenge, as there are a number of factors that may affect the selection process. Often, a country delegation will consist of one person only, owing to a lack of resources. With only one person on the delegation, it makes the selection process even more critical. Regardless of the process used to form the delegation, there are some common elements. The first point is that the Codex contact point solicits nominations from senior-level managers of departments or agencies active in the National Codex Program. As the Codex Alimentarius Commission is an intergovernmental organization, the official representative to the sessions of the Commission or its subsidiary bodies should be a government official. However, there may be circumstances where an individual who is not from government may end up being the official representative. For example, the expertise required is not available within government, or a government official is not available. In such circumstances, it must be clearly understood that the individual is representing the government and is expected to promote the official government view on issues under consideration and not the position of the organization or the position of the individual themselves. The second point is that the government endorses the nomination submitted. The manner of official endorsement would naturally vary from one country to the other. The Codex contact point should be involved in the selection process, as should the National Codex Committee if one exists. As the individuals selected are representing the country, there should be some form of government endorsement. The composition of the national delegation, meaning the representative, the head of delegation, the alternates, and the advisors, must be communicated to the meeting secretariats through the Codex contact point. The third element is that the nominee's appointment, together with the delegate's obligations and funding arrangements, may be confirmed in writing if desired. Adequate briefing of the delegate is always important, but even more critical when there is a new representative at Codex meetings. Regardless of the degree of formality required to conform with national procedures, in appointing an individual to represent their country, it is very important the individuals selected are fully briefed regarding their responsibilities and regarding issues of significance under discussion at the Codex meeting in which they are participating. Let us discuss the criteria to be applied during the selection process of national delegates. Some elements need to be considered, including the terms of reference of the Codex meeting for which the individual is being selected, the position held within the ministry, the department, with primary responsibility for the specific Codex meeting, the technical expertise of the individual in the subject matter of the relevant Codex meeting, the degree of experience or involvement in previous Codex activities, and other factors such as recommendations that may be made by the National Codex Committee. Members of a national delegation would fall under one of the following categories. a head delegate, generally a government member, or an advisor, which may be a government official and/or a non-government member. Naturally, if a country's delegation consisted of one individual, that individual would be the head delegate by default. Commonly, countries will only have one delegate attend a Codex session due to resource limitations. The cost of travel, even for developed countries, is becoming more and more prohibitive. Nevertheless, it must be realized that due to the heavy workload and the work agendas, as well as on occasion the formation of small working groups during the Codex sessions, it may be in the best interests of a country to have more than one delegate, even if this means committing some extra resources. A second member of a delegation may help the head delegate to prepare or revise his oral intervention, takes notes of discussion, organize documents of the meeting, and even connect back to the capital to hold informal consultation with other officials during the session. Let us discuss the participation of non-government advisors. It is not unusual for a country to have non-government representatives on their delegations. Such individuals are selected to be part of a delegation due to the technical expertise within industry and academia. As is the case for government officials, representatives selected to serve on national delegations should also be officially endorsed. When deciding on such representatives, the following criteria used to select government officials should be applied. Again, the terms of reference of the Codex meeting for which the individual is being selected, the technical expertise of the individual in the subject matter of the relevant Codex meeting, the degree of experience or involvement in previous Codex activities such as previous contributions to developing national positions, and other factors such as good communication skills. Here's a practice that may be applied by some countries. In some countries, a national Codex fund is established to be used by government agencies to attend Codex meetings managed generally by the National Codex Committee. The National Codex Committee is mandated to identify the Codex meetings to be attended. The committee also selects and endorses delegations, including the head delegate, in consultation with partners and stakeholders. The fund is then used to fund the travel of the selected and endorsed delegation, and travel funds can also be a parameter to consider when a delegation is to be identified along with the importance of the committee targeted for that country. Let us review the responsibilities and obligations of delegations. Members of a national delegation to attend Codex sessions have the following responsibilities and obligations. Delegations participate in Codex sessions in accordance with the procedural manual, guidelines for Codex committees and intergovernmental task forces, including the conduct of meetings. It is the responsibility of all the delegates to become familiar with the contents of this part of the procedural manual. Delegates are expected to attend all plenary sessions and any meetings convened by the head delegate. With the concurrence of the head delegate, advisors may also attend working group meetings held during the session. Generally, advisors should not negotiate on behalf of their country's government and should only do so with the express permission of the head delegate. According to Codex Rules of Procedure, alternates and advisors in a country delegation can only speak in session when authorized by the head delegate and with the permission of the chairperson of the committee. An effective delegation should be well managed and coordinated by the head delegate. All related decisions which may affect the performance of the delegation should be made by the head delegate. A standard rule that applies to all Codex activities is that an individual is registered as a member of a delegation and can only be a member of one delegation, meaning he or she may not serve concurrently during a Codex committee session as a member of any other country's delegation or on the delegation of an accredited advisor or observer organization to the Codex session. In particular, individuals representing non-government organizations may wish to carefully consider where they can be most effective, either as a member of a country delegation or as a member of an international organization that has observer status in Codex, and that is promoting positions that are similar to the views of that individual's own organization. Members of the delegation are not immune from any laws or regulations of their country or of the host country as a result of their participation in a Codex delegation. When selected as a member of a delegation, non-government organization advisors must work towards the overall objective of the delegation. If during informal discussions, non-government advisors express views that differ from the official country position, they must clearly indicate that these views are their own or those of the non-governmental organizations they represent and not those of their country's government. According to Codex Rules of Procedure, alternates and advisors in a country delegation can only speak in session when authorized by the head delegate and with the permission of the chairperson of the committee or of the commission. Non-government delegates should advise the head delegate of the concerns of the organization they represent and make every effort to contribute to enhancing the effectiveness of the delegation at Codex sessions. Non-governmental advisors, in particular, should exercise discretion to ensure that their activities are not prejudicial to the effectiveness of the delegation. A member may be asked to withdraw from the delegation if such activities occur. All delegations have a head delegate who has overall responsibility for the functioning of the delegation before, during, and after the relevant Codex meeting. Where a delegation consists of only one individual, by default, that individual is the head delegate. The head delegate is the main speaker, presenting the country's views and position on issues that are under discussion. Let us review the responsibilities of the head delegate. The head delegate strives to ensure the formation of a delegation of government officials and NGO representatives with an interest in and expertise relevant to the terms of reference of the committee, as well as the items on the provisional agenda. Second, he or she should ensure that draft positions are prepared for each agenda item in consultation with the National Codex Committee or its equivalent structure. He or she must conduct a discussion of the draft positions on each agenda item with officials from other countries that may share common views. He or she should present the draft positions for each agenda item to the National Codex Committee or its equivalent structure for review, amendment as necessary, and for endorsement. The head delegate should be looking at the provisional agenda to identify those issues of most significance to his or her country and determining what expertise may be needed to develop a position. Ideally, those individuals identified during this process should actually attend the meeting, but it is not absolutely necessary. It's important to understand that it is the expertise that is important and their subsequent input. As positions should be prepared before a delegation leaves for a Codex meeting, then early involvement of appropriate experts is the key to a strong position. This expertise may come from other government departments or agencies or from non-government organizations. As positions reflect official national government opinion, it is important that the positions be endorsed by the appropriate government authority. Other responsibilities of the head delegate include to provide copies of the final draft positions to the Codex contact point, to each member of the delegation, to all interested stakeholder organizations, to the designated contacts in other countries as appropriate. The responsibilities also include to present, defend, and promote the positions on each agenda item to the Codex Committee, taking into account issues raised by other delegations while ensuring consistency with national policy. On return to the country, to prepare a report on the outcome of the session for the Codex Contact Point and the National Codex Committee. All members of the delegation should endorse this final delegation report. Amongst the other responsibilities is to continue to coordinate the preparation of responses to circular letters issued with respect to the committee, with consultation on the draft positions as appropriate. The reply should be submitted to the Codex Secretariat via the Codex contact point and presented to the National Codex Committee for information. Let us consider some practical aspects. The first point is about sharing your country's position. The sharing of positions outside of government is not done automatically. If the head delegate considers it would be useful to share the country's positions in advance of the meeting, then copies are provided to key contacts. This is normally done through the Codex contact point. The second practical point is about defending and promoting your country's position. Simply presenting your country's position in writing or verbally will not guarantee that your country's views will be reflected in any committee decision. The head delegate, with the assistance of other members, if any, of the delegation, must promote and defend the position. This entails liaising with other delegations before and during the meeting to present and explain your position and to solicit support. To advance the country's viewpoint, delegates must be proactive. Where a particular agenda item falls within the mandate of another ministry other than the one from which the head delegate comes, and if there is a member of the delegation from that other ministry, the head delegate may consider asking this delegate to speak on behalf of the country with respect to this agenda item. Third, the preparation of the report on the outcome of the session for the Codex Contact Point and the National Codex Committee may be delegated to another member of the official delegation. In some countries, it is a standard practice to present this report orally to the National Codex Committee, where such a committee exists. There are some considerations which should be taken into account by head delegates and others involved in preparing country positions. These considerations concern the activities in preparation during and after Codex sessions. These considerations are not exhaustive. Neither are all points applicable to all delegations all the time. However, it may be useful to establish some checklists to which head delegates and others can refer for guidance on Codex activity. A question frequently asked by first-time attendees at a Codex meeting is, what do I bring? Travel information, visa, airline, tickets, hotel address, contact details of the embassy, the name and the address of the contact person at the Codex contact point in the host country are some of the elements that you need to remember and that you need to bring with you. Also, taking into account prior approval for travel is normally required, careful consideration needs to be given to all the relevant timelines to ensure that an attendee arrives on time to fully participate in the meeting proceedings. In planning the travel itinerary, delegates should take into consideration the date the meeting starts and the date the meeting finishes, as well as other meetings that may be planned prior to the main Codex meeting. For example, most regional coordinating committees hold a planning coordinating session a day or two before the plenary session commences. Also, for some meetings, a one-day training seminar or workshop may be organized to coincide with the Codex session. In this case, travel arrangements should ensure that attendees arrive on time to participate in these ancillary activities. This is particularly important for those countries submitting applications for support from the Codex Trust Fund. On the screen, you will have all the items that may need to be checked and to be considered to bring with you when you plan to attend a Codex meeting. Let us summarize. In the process countries use to form national delegations, there are some common elements, such as soliciting nominations from senior-level managers, endorsement by the government, confirmation of the nominees' appointments together with delegates' obligations and funding arrangements. A country delegation may consist of several members, such as the head delegate, other delegates and advisors, meaning government officials and non-government representatives. Often, a delegation will consist of one person, which by default would be the head delegate. Members of a national delegation have precise responsibilities and obligations, such as becoming familiar with the procedural manual, attending all plenary sessions and any meetings convened by the head delegate, that they cannot serve concurrently during a Codex session as a member of more than one delegation. The head delegate has overall responsibility for the functioning of the delegation before, during, and after the Codex meeting. Whoever is involved in preparing country positions should take into account some considerations and useful tips concerning the activities in preparation, during, and after the Codex session.